Welcome to the channel. Help me hit 500 subscribers. This video and offer help me help you. Subscribe and I'll bring more videos. Saudi Arabia and Cristiano Ronaldo sparked a money-soaked tug-of-war in world football. If the secret fund of an autocratic state offered you tens of millions of dollars to play football in the desert for a few years, would you take it? How about 100 million? Believe it or not, those sums are actually below some initial reports of what was offered to some star players after Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, PIF, took over 4 of the biggest teams in the Saudi Football League this month. Cristiano Ronaldo was already there, playing for Al Nassr since January, after accepting an offer that, according to some reports, totals more than $200 million a year. He has since been joined by Karim Benzema, who will leave Real Madrid this summer to join Al Ittihad. Initial reports suggested he would be compensated at a level in excess of $100 million a year, although there is now some doubt as to whether it is that high. He has a new teammate in World Cup winner N'Golo Kanté with France, who will leave Chelsea and receive $100 million plus image licensing deals over 4 years. Possibly. These contracts are not public and the amounts are not confirmed, but the exact numbers hardly matter. The message is clear: come play in Riyadh for a few years and never worry about money again. Come to Jeddah and establish your family for generations. One player the Saudi Pro League has lost, however, is the greatest there ever was, Lionel Messi, who chose to leave Paris Saint-Germain for Inter Miami, one of the newest MLS teams owned in significant part by David Beckham. Don't mistake Messi's decision for some moral stance against the Saudi government's human rights record. He's already signed up as an ambassador for Saudi tourism, and we can safely assume he's well rewarded for all his work as an ambassador. According to the Spanish newspaper AS, that's more than $30 million a year. Messi was likely drawn to South Florida by the more relaxed atmosphere of the MLS after a tumultuous few years at PSG, culminating with a lost workout to a trip to the kingdom to fulfill his ambassadorial duties, and a highly American financial proposition. He will receive a healthy salary of around $54 million, even if that is below the rumored $400 million a year the Saudis are putting on the table. But he was also offered a stake in the club after he retired, a deal almost as attractive as the one Beckham signed in 2007, which allowed him to acquire an MLS expansion franchise for a reduced price of $25 million. He exercised that option to establish Inter Miami in 2014, a year after Manchester City's ownership group paid $100 million to create NYCFC. But wait, there's more. According to a Wall Street Journal report, Messi was also lured by Adidas and Apple, the 2 biggest MLS sponsors. The latter bought the rights to stream games on Apple TV Plus for $2.5 billion over 10 years in 2022, and they saw streaming GOAT as so transformative for that project that they offered it a share of new subscriber revenue. Adidas has long personally sponsored Messi and is looking forward to seeing him fully decked out in the 3 stripes for the next 2.5 years, although details of any further financial commitments are not public. In this way, some multinational companies help to win the battle for Messi's services on behalf of the United States. MLS is often ridiculed by fans of soccer's traditional powerhouses, but 7 teams feature on Forbes' list of the world's 30 most valuable soccer franchises released last month. A $1 billion valuation for the LAFC is a serious growth projection, the kind that could thrust MLS into global prominence alongside leagues in England, Spain, Italy, Germany and France, as well as the league's pan-European Super Playoff. Champions League. Among European leagues, the Premier League is the richest. Its clubs occupy 11 of the top 20 places in Deloitte's Football Money League and 16 of the top 30. The mismanagement of some mainland clubs has been exposed under the stress of the pandemic and all have been left behind by their Premier League TV contract. More than $12 billion over 4 years when you combine the UK and international rights. The remaining interest in a European Super League, a corporate power play by Europe's biggest clubs, including England's, which has been blocked in large part by Europe's football fans in 2021, comes from the continent's biggest clubs. Like Real Madrid or Juventus, who fear they cannot compete financially with the Premier League. There is angst even within the European game, as former powerhouses Italy and Spain feel swamped by big bucks. By some reports, the Saudis believe they can place their league in the same bracket as France or Italy, but likely not the Premier League. They would do this by picking Europe's aging stars with lucrative pre-retirement contracts, not unlike what MLS has been doing for years, and then getting more top-aged players as they better position themselves to feast on the financial turmoil of the European clubs. And internal conflict. Messi's journey shows how we got here. He made a name for himself and set the world on fire over 17 seasons at FC Barcelona, one of Europe's most celebrated clubs and a long-standing financial powerhouse. It's still one of the most valuable in the world at $5.5 billion according to Forbes, but it's not one of the best executed. Barcelona is owned by 144,000 members, an arrangement shared by Real Madrid and Bayern Munich in Germany, where a single majority shareholder is virtually prohibited by law. Mismanagement and overspending in Catalonia put Barcelona in trouble. Disagreement with the financial regulations of La Liga, the Spanish league, such that they were unable to renew Messi's contract and were forced to let him go to Paris. PSG has the backing of Qatari royalty, who have spent ludicrous sums to bring Kylian Mbappé, Neymar, and many others to play there. Before that, they spent big to bring the World Cup to Doha last winter. Qatar's Sheikh Jassim is currently trying to buy Manchester United for $6.3 billion, in a battle with British petrochemical billionaire Jim Ratcliffe to wrest it from the Glazer family, which is one of 9 Premier League clubs. American-owned. That includes heavyweights Liverpool, Arsenal and Chelsea, where Todd Boehly led a consortium to insane spending levels, $676 million net in the first 8 months or so, and perpetuated some serious American stereotypes along the way. Few American owners enjoy the kind of love Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney have for lower league Wrexham. There's even some anger among fans of Chelsea's rivals over the fact that the Saudi PIF is investing in Boehly's Clearlake capital and also buying Chelsea players to take them to the Saudi League. By now it should be clear how tangled up this mess is. Meanwhile, his Abu Dhabi eminences took over Manchester City in 2011 and took them to the top of the European mountain by playing by all the rules. Oh, and the PIF took over Newcastle United in 2020. Backed by the government of Boris Johnson over appeals from human rights groups. It is here that we must come to the morals. The United States and Great Britain have committed atrocities in the world area of Saudi Arabia and many others, but so have the Saudis. Just ask the Yemenis, though they had American help on this. The differences between London, Washington and Riyadh are best summed up in a few questions. Where would you rather be a woman? Where do you prefer to speak out publicly against people in power? Where would you rather be gay? Where would you rather be poor? Where would you rather be a member of the royal family? Well, that one only applies to 2 out of the 3. But even with the reactionary forces on the march in the US and the added economic woes in Britain, we all know the answers. Ultimately, few morals matter if you can extract mind-boggling wealth from the ground and distribute it as you please, or if you wield significant power in American financial markets. Some Britons are more angered by the American invasion than they are by the takeovers of Middle Eastern regimes, and those who oppose any takeover cannot rely on a united front of other supporters, as they did when the European Super League came into being. It's hard to blame Newcastle fans when their city, shaken by the economic evolutions of recent decades, was on the cusp of securing a top-flight football team. Why should they sacrifice when so many were never asked? But then, what other owners did what Mohammed bin Salman did off the field? Saudi officials insist this is a push to up their game, improve public health and bring investment into the sport as MBS moves to diversify its economy away from fossil fuel extraction, and it likely does all of those things. But it's also clearly an effort to give the House of Saud a fresh coat of paint, not just as rulers of a less backward country, but as the leading power. The preeminent regional one in the Middle East, another gravitational pole of the global order. Athletic reports that Saudi Arabia aims to host 25 world championships across multiple sports by 2030, and its venture, some would say takeover of, golf could be a huge success if LIV's partnership with the PGA Tour can survive to an antitrust review. Which isn't to say this football thing is so easy. This has happened before. The Chinese Super League seemed to become an overnight financial powerhouse in 2016, throwing money at players to lure them across the world of Europe's traditional leagues. They even signed some top-aged guys like Oscar, the Brazilian attacking midfielder who starred at Chelsea, as well as heavyweights like Javier Mascherano. Oscar is still playing for Shanghai Ports at the age of 31. But in 2019, China's burden began to melt, and the country's prolonged and draconian COVID lockdowns from 2020 disappeared from the League of the World stage. To be fair, it never really did. ESPN has covered Ronaldo's exploits at Al Nassr more than anything else in China. Part of the sell is that Saudi stadiums are genuinely packed with raucous fans who create an atmosphere. Ronaldo went to Saudi Arabia despite his family having been formed for generations. He raked in over $1 billion over his career, minus taxes, which was as much of an issue for him as it was for Messi in Spain. He apparently never considered going to MLS. It was a stranger affair than the Kanté move. While the Frenchman has probably made good money playing in the Premier League, he has nothing close to the assets of Ronaldo and Messi, or probably even Benzema. This was a chance for a boy born to Malian immigrant parents in Paris to work out his financial problems, and he took it, a deal that doesn't sound all that different from the one the Toon Army struck in Newcastle. But in addition to these famous names, there is perhaps equally important news that Ruben Neves, a solid 26-year-old Premier League midfielder, and Chelsea goalkeeper Edouard Mendy have agreed to join the Saudi Pro League in their early days. Oh, and Bernardo Silva, one of Europe's best players, coming off a 3-trophy season with Manchester City aged 28, is choosing between the Saudi League and PSG, whose Qatari owners have some frosty relations with their neighbors. Peninsular. Are they just flashes in the pan, like Oscar's $80 million transfer to China 7 years ago, or are they real? If the Saudi push fails, it will not be because of any moralism. European clubs hope that many decades of sporting heritage will protect their product, although Londoners West Ham celebrate their victory in a 2-year-old tournament a few weeks ago as if it were the World Cup. And why not? You have to accept your emotions when they come, and fans will accept anyone who provides them. Whether it's an American billionaire, an emir of the oil state or a fan-elected president, there's little sign that it matters to people as long as it means a few more great days with family and friends. Also, they rarely have much choice. Messi did it, and he got the best deal ever because he recognized the opportunity to move from employee to partner, to become an owner himself. More American, and even European, teams may have to offer these kinds of deals to survive the flood of Saudi money. Hope you enjoyed the video. What did you think of the video? Subscribe to the channel and leave your opinion in the comments.